Hello, everyone. Sometimes the most dangerous battlefield isn't the one we see outside, but the one we face inside our own heads. Thoughts can creep in like shadows, quietly, subtly, and unannounced. They disguise themselves as logic, concern, or even intuition. But beneath that mask, some of them carry poison. When a thought tells you that you're not good enough, not worthy, or that you'll never make it, it often doesn't come from truth. It comes from fear, past wounds, or insecurity. Yet many people don't realize they're under attack because the thoughts feel so natural, so familiar. Recognizing these mental attacks begins by learning to step back and observe your mind without judgment. The mind is a powerful tool, but it can also become a dangerous weapon when it's left unchecked. If you've ever found yourself spiraling over a single comment, reliving a failure from years ago, or doubting your ability just before an important decision, you've likely experienced a thought attack. These mental assaults are often repetitive, emotionally charged, and rooted in false beliefs or exaggerated fears. But most of us live on autopilot, accepting every thought as truth simply because it showed up in our minds. This is the trap. The first step toward freedom is realizing you do not have to believe every thought that enters your head. It's essential to understand that thought attacks often follow patterns. You might notice them in specific situations, before a big presentation, after a conflict, or during moments of stillness. The thoughts might sound like, "They're going to judge you," "You always mess things up," or "No one really likes you." These aren't random. They are triggered by vulnerability, uncertainty, or fear. When you begin to identify these patterns, you take the first step in breaking their power. It's like recognizing an intruder by their footsteps. You begin to prepare yourself for their arrival and disarm them before they wreak havoc. Another way to recognize when your thoughts are attacking is to become aware of how they make you feel. Thought attacks are not neutral. They drain your energy, cloud your judgment, and leave you emotionally exhausted. They create anxiety in your chest, tension in your shoulders, and restlessness in your mind. Unlike empowering or constructive thoughts, these thoughts create chaos. So if you feel suddenly overwhelmed without a clear reason, pause. Ask yourself, what have I been thinking? Your body often reacts to your thoughts before you do. Use that as a signal to become conscious of the mental narrative unfolding inside you. One of the most damaging aspects of these thought attacks is that they can feel like your own voice. That's what makes them so believable. But in reality, many of these thoughts were planted long ago by critical parents, painful experiences, toxic relationships, or societal expectations. What sounds like your voice might actually be someone else's judgment that you've carried for years. Recognizing that not every voice in your head is authentically yours is deeply liberating. It gives you the power to filter and question what truly aligns with your values, your worth, and your truth. The key is to adopt the role of an observer, someone who watches thoughts come and go without automatically accepting them. When a thought tells you you're going to fail, don't just internalize it. Pause and investigate. Where did that thought come from? Has it shown up before? Is it trying to protect you from something, or is it limiting you? This mental distance allows you to separate your identity from your thoughts. You are not the attacker, you are the witness, and that shift in awareness is where the healing begins. One of the most liberating truths we can embrace is the idea that not everything we think is true. The human mind is a constant stream of thought, some insightful, some creative, some ridiculous, and many distorted. Yet most people accept their thoughts as unquestionable facts. This unquestioning loyalty to the voice in our head leads to endless cycles of doubt, fear, and low self-esteem. Just because a thought feels intense or convincing does not mean it is based in reality. Thoughts are just mental events, temporary, passing, and often shaped by emotion or bias, not by truth. Consider how a single negative thought can spiral into an entire internal narrative. You make a mistake at work, and suddenly your mind says, "You're so stupid." That one thought can give birth to dozens more. They probably think I'm incompetent. I'll never get promoted. I always mess up, and on it goes. But pause for a moment. Where is the evidence? Where is the rational evaluation of your worth, skill, or potential? In most cases, there isn't any. The mind is not delivering an objective assessment. It's reacting emotionally, often based on old patterns of shame or insecurity. Believing these thoughts without evidence is like listening to a fearful child tell you how the world works. We must understand that thoughts are often shaped by perception, and perception is easily distorted. Your current mood, physical state, and past experiences all influence what you think. When you're tired, anxious, or under pressure, your thoughts are more likely to turn negative. On a good day, you might feel confident and hopeful. On a bad day, with the exact same circumstances, you might feel overwhelmed and hopeless. It's not the world that changed. It's the lens through which your thoughts are filtered. Recognizing this allows you to detach from thoughts that are based on temporary emotional states. Another critical insight is realizing that many of our thoughts are programmed responses. From early childhood, we are conditioned to think certain things based on our upbringing, culture, and environment. If you were constantly criticized, you may have developed an inner critic that now plays on repeat. If you were taught to fear failure, your thoughts may automatically warn you against any risk. But these patterns aren't truths. They are survival mechanisms developed under certain conditions. The fact that you think you're not good enough doesn't mean you aren't. It means your mind is echoing old beliefs that were never questioned. This is why mindfulness and cognitive awareness are so powerful. They help you create space between yourself and your thoughts. When a painful or anxious thought arises, you can say, "That's just a thought. It's not a fact." This simple distinction creates mental freedom. You can observe the thought, analyze it, challenge it, and even replace it with something more empowering. You are not trapped by the story your mind is telling. You can become the editor of your thoughts, not just the reader. This ability to distance yourself from your thoughts is not denial. It is wisdom. The goal is not to stop thinking altogether or to pretend negative thoughts don't exist. The goal is to stop giving every thought the authority to shape your reality. Just because a thought screams loudly doesn't mean it deserves your belief. You must become discerning. Learn to question thoughts like a detective investigating a case. Where's the proof? Is this thought based in reality or fear? Would I believe this if I was calm and confident? The more you do this, the more you begin to reclaim your power from the mental narratives that once controlled you. Overthinking is often mistaken for deep reflection or problem solving, but the truth is, it can be a form of self-sabotage in disguise. It disguises itself as preparation, as caution, as wisdom, but it can quickly spiral into paralysis when your thoughts endlessly circle the same worries, fears, or what-if scenarios. You're no longer moving toward solutions, you're feeding anxiety. The more you think, the worse you feel. The worse you feel, the more you think. It's a vicious cycle that drains your energy and robs you of clarity. At some point, overthinking stops being helpful and starts becoming harmful. What many people don't realize is that overthinking often stems from a desire for control. We think if we just analyze a situation enough times, we can predict every outcome, prevent every failure, and protect ourselves from pain. But the truth is, no amount of thinking can prepare you for life's uncertainties. Overanalyzing does not equal control. It only gives you the illusion of control. You end up stuck in your mind, playing out scenarios that may never happen, while the present moment passes you by. The need to be sure, to be perfect, or to avoid mistakes keeps you locked in place. Overthinking can also sabotage your confidence. Every time you second, guess your instincts, revisit a decision, or obsess over whether you said the right thing, you chip away at your self-trust. The more you ruminate, the more you start believing something is wrong with you. Why else would you need to go over it again and again? Instead of learning from the past and moving forward, you stay mentally stuck in guilt, doubt, or fear. This can erode your sense of worth and make even the smallest tasks feel overwhelming. Eventually, your overthinking becomes a form of self-punishment. In relationships, overthinking can cause distance and damage. You start reading between the lines, questioning motives, and analyzing words and actions until you create stories that aren't based in truth. They haven't replied. Maybe they're ignoring me. Or she sounded off. Did I do something wrong? These assumptions grow and multiply, creating tension that didn't exist. Instead of connecting, you're reacting to imagined threats. Instead of communicating, you're interpreting silence as rejection. And the more you do it, the more real it all feels, even if it was never true in the first place. Even in your goals and ambitions, overthinking can be a silent killer. You have dreams, ideas, and plans, but instead of acting, you keep planning, researching, and doubting. You want everything to be perfect before you begin, but perfect never comes. You get stuck in the cycle of almost ready, while others with less knowledge or skill are out there taking risks, growing, and succeeding. Overthinking becomes your excuse to delay action, to delay discomfort, and to delay failure. But in doing so, you also delay growth, progress, and fulfillment. The cost of overthinking isn't just stress, it's lost opportunities. The worst part is that overthinking feels responsible. It feels like you're just being thorough, careful, or cautious, but underneath that surface lies fear, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of making the wrong choice. And fear disguised as thoughtfulness is still fear. The longer you dwell in your head, the more disconnected you become from your intuition, your courage, and your ability to act. Life doesn't reward those who overthink. It rewards those who act, learn, adapt, and keep going. Overthinking promises safety, but in reality, it builds invisible cages around your life. Negative thoughts rarely come from nowhere. They are not random occurrences or sudden flashes of truth. They are deeply rooted in past experiences, often stemming from wounds that were never properly acknowledged or healed. Many of the cruel, judgmental, or fearful thoughts we have about ourselves are echoes of moments in our past where we were hurt, rejected, criticized, or shamed. These thoughts don't just appear, they grow out of pain that was never processed. Until we understand the source, these thoughts will continue to surface, again and again, haunting us like ghosts of experiences we tried to forget but never truly healed from. When you hear your mind say, "You're not good enough," it's rarely about your current reality. More often, it's the lingering voice of someone who once made you feel that way, a parent, a teacher, a partner, or a bully. These early messages get internalized and replayed so many times that we begin to think they're our own beliefs. But they are not. They are emotional scars speaking through the language of thought. The mind recycles those moments, not because they are true, but because they left a mark. Unhealed wounds give power to these thoughts because the pain attached to them hasn't been resolved. Many people walk through life unaware that they're carrying old injuries in their mind and heart. They don't realize that their persistent self-doubt or fear of abandonment is not just who they are, it's a symptom of something deeper. Maybe it was the parent who withheld love unless you performed, or the friend who betrayed your trust, or the environment that taught you to stay small and silent. Each of those moments left an imprint. The mind tries to protect you from being hurt again by generating warning thoughts, but in doing so, it often ends up limiting your growth and happiness. Unhealed wounds also affect how we interpret new experiences. If you've been constantly rejected in the past, even neutral behavior from someone can feel like abandonment. If you were criticized harshly as a child, even gentle feedback might sound like an attack. Your mind filters the present through the pain of the past. It doesn't do this out of malice. It does it to protect you. But that protection often keeps you stuck. When your inner world is built on pain, your thoughts will reflect that pain in every situation, causing you to misjudge people, mistrust opportunities, and misread yourself. The cycle of negative thinking becomes a defense mechanism. You may tell yourself you're unworthy so that you don't risk disappointment. You might believe nothing good will happen so that you don't get your hopes up. This is not rational thinking, it's wounded thinking. It's a strategy to avoid reliving the pain of your past, but it comes at a great cost. It keeps joy, love, connection, and success just out of reach. The more we listen to these thoughts, the more they define our identity. We begin to wear our wounds as personality traits instead of healing them and reclaiming our true selves. The path to breaking free from these negative thoughts is not by fighting them directly, but by going inward to heal the wounds that feed them. This requires courage to revisit the pain you buried, to confront the moments that shaped your beliefs, and to forgive what needs forgiving, including yourself. Healing doesn't mean those thoughts will never show up again. It means they will no longer have the same power. When you understand where they come from, you can meet them with compassion rather than judgment. You begin to replace pain with truth, and in doing so, you loosen the grip of the negative patterns that have held you back for so long. When negative thoughts flood your mind, they often come disguised as facts, when in reality, they are nothing more than lies crafted by fear, insecurity, or past trauma. These lies speak in absolutes. You're a failure, no one cares, you'll never get it right. And the more you listen to them, the more real they begin to feel. But here's the truth. Lies can only thrive in silence. When you don't confront them, when you don't speak up against them, they grow louder. You cannot defeat falsehood by passively hoping it goes away. You have to speak truth to it. You must respond with clarity, intention, and strength. The mind is like a courtroom, and you are both the defense attorney and the judge. When a thought accuses you of being worthless, you cannot remain silent and let the lie win the case. You must stand up and present evidence. Think of your accomplishments, your efforts, your growth, your resilience. Remind yourself of who you truly are, not the distorted version your fear wants you to believe. This practice of challenging inner lies is not just motivational fluff, it's cognitive restructuring, a proven psychological method to change the way your brain processes reality. Every time you answer a lie with truth, you rewire your mind for strength. Speaking truth to lies means becoming intentional with your self-talk. You must interrupt toxic thoughts with affirmations, facts, and compassion. If the lie says, "You always fail," you say, "I've made mistakes, but I've also learned and improved." If the lie says, "No one loves me," you say, "There are people who care, and I am learning to receive that love." Truth is not about sugar, coating, or avoiding reality. It's about restoring balance. Lies are extreme and exaggerated. Truth is grounded and empowering. When you speak truth, you restore perspective and regain control over your internal dialogue. It's also important to speak your truth out loud. Verbalizing affirmations, journaling your positive beliefs, or even whispering them to yourself can have a profound effect on your mental state. Why? Because your brain listens. The words you say to yourself out loud become internalized over time. It's not enough to think positive. You must declare positive. You must become your own advocate, your own healer, your own voice of reason. In the absence of a strong inner voice, the lies will dominate. But when you speak truth with conviction, you break the illusion of helplessness and reclaim your identity. Another reason this is so crucial is because the lies in our minds often reflect the voices of the past critical parents, harsh teachers, judgmental peers. These voices linger even when those people are no longer present. If you don't actively replace them, they will continue to live rent-free in your mind, controlling how you see yourself and what you believe you deserve. Speaking truth to these voices is not just about mental health, it's about liberation. It's about rewriting the narrative others tried to impose on you. When you affirm your truth, you reclaim the pen and begin writing your own story. Finally, this process takes practice. Lies are persistent. They don't disappear after one positive thought. You'll have to speak truth over and over again, every day, in every situation where your mind tries to deceive you. Some days it will feel like a battle. Other days it will feel natural and empowering, but the key is consistency. The more you train your mind to hear truth, the more the lies will weaken. Over time, your inner voice becomes your greatest ally instead of your harshest critic. And when that shift happens, you no longer live at the mercy of fear. You begin to live from a place of courage and clarity. We live in a world that encourages us to train our bodies, to eat clean, to build muscle, and to stay fit. But what about the mind? Mental strength is just as important, if not more, than physical strength, yet it's often neglected. Just as your body becomes weak without regular exercise, your mind also becomes vulnerable without discipline. A mind without structure becomes a playground for anxiety, fear, self-doubt, and overthinking. Practicing mental discipline means taking intentional steps to strengthen your thoughts, build resilience, and maintain emotional balance, regardless of what life throws at you. Mental discipline is not about suppressing emotions or pretending everything is fine. It's about having the self-awareness to recognize harmful thought patterns and the strength to redirect them. It's about pausing before reacting, choosing your response instead of defaulting to old habits, and creating space between stimulus and reaction. This ability doesn't come naturally. It is developed, just like endurance or flexibility. Daily practices like meditation, journaling, intentional breathing, and self-reflection are your mental workouts. Over time, they train your brain to stay grounded, focused, and calm, even in moments of chaos. One of the core elements of mental discipline is learning to take control of your focus. Your attention is one of your most powerful resources, and where you place it determines your emotional state. If you constantly focus on what's lacking, what could go wrong, or who wronged you, you feed negativity. But if you train yourself to focus on gratitude, solutions, growth, and peace, you change your emotional chemistry. This isn't toxic positivity, it's intentional thinking. Mental discipline teaches you to filter out mental noise and direct your energy toward what actually helps you grow. Another part of mental discipline is learning to delay immediate emotional reactions in favor of long-term emotional strength. It means not giving in to every angry impulse, fearful thought, or anxious reaction. It's easy to let your emotions take the wheel, especially when you're triggered or overwhelmed. But discipline teaches you to pause, breathe, and assess the situation rationally. That doesn't mean you suppress how you feel, it means you process it in a healthy way instead of letting it rule you. Just as an athlete controls their movements, you can learn to control your mental state through awareness and practice. Mental discipline also involves consistency, doing the right thing for your mind even when you don't feel like it. That could mean showing up to journal when your thoughts are messy, meditating when your mind is racing, or going on a walk instead of spiraling into a stress hole. You won't always be motivated. That's why you must rely on discipline. It's the difference between letting life happen to you and taking charge of how you experience it. Mental discipline doesn't eliminate struggle. It just makes you better equipped to face it without falling apart every time something goes wrong. The beauty of mental discipline is that it's a skill anyone can build. You don't need to be a monk, a therapist, or a motivational speaker. You just need to start where you are and make a daily commitment to your mental health. It could be 5 minutes a day or 50, but what matters is that you show up for yourself with intention. Every time you choose a healthy thought, every time you reframe a fear, every time you pause instead of panic, you are building strength. And just like lifting weights builds muscle, disciplined thinking builds a mind that can withstand stress, resist negativity, and rise above the chaos.